everyone, welcome to my channel. Today we're going to be doing a part 3 from the last video I posted, and I left off with a question from one of our viewers. Thank you for the question. How can someone transmute an unbalanced negative abuse relationship with a controlling narcissistic partner? Or should they before they want to leave? So this is a great question, and I'm going to answer it with guidance from Saint Germain. I'm going to consciously channel, and we're going to give you the Empowered Empath playbook on how to win with this game with the narcissist. So you can use these steps to apply to any kind of narcissistic relationship, whether it's a spouse, partner, love interest, romantic, or maybe a family member, parent, child, or coworker, a friend, acquaintance, a neighbor. So any type of relationship that you feel trapped in and you want to get your power with. So I'm going to get started, and the first thing that he's bringing in, if you can't get out of your relationship, so if you're being physically injured in any way, then remove yourself from the situation if you can. If you can't and you feel trapped and you want to get your power within the household or within the work relationship, and you don't feel that you can leave at this time, like you don't have the resources and you can't find anybody to help you get out of the situation, then these steps will help you to transmute dark back to light, fierce back to love, and get your power within the relationship while you're still in it. So Saint Germain's going to give us steps on how to empower ourselves in any narcissistic relationship and win the game of life. So we come onto planet Earth and we play the game of polarities, duality, contrast, and the narcissist in our relationships are a reflection of where we're vibrating at, of what we haven't transmuted within ourselves. And so the first question to ask is, what kind of prison have I created on planet Earth? Because we all create some sort of prison, and the whole game of frequencies on planet Earth is to figure out how to be free while you're in that prison. So when you look at your relationships, instead of seeing them in a third dimension relationship where there's people outside of me, we're going to be switching to observing it in a fifth dimension perception when you are all energy. Everything is one energy. So all your background people are your vibration projected in front of you, reflecting back to you a gift of some sort, showing you where you're vibrating at. This will help get you out of victim. So the first step is to figure out, what kind of prison am I in? Am I in a relationship, an abusive relationship in the household, where I am constantly tormented by somebody who lives with me, whether it's a parent, spouse, it doesn't matter. If they're in your household, how about you created that sort of prison in your reality? Or is it in the workplace? Or is it in your mind? Is it that your mind tortures you and your biggest bully is yourself? Is it the body that you're in? Are you maybe having a difficult time navigating the world in a body that feels like a prison? Like if you have a disability, a physical disability, or a mental disability, or if you feel you're in the wrong gender, there's some kind of prison that we've created. So first step is to figure out, what kind of prison have I created and what is the gift in it? So you want to be able to see why you created the prison, because that will help you get out of victim. If you get out of victim, then you have the power to change it. You do not have the power to change anything if you still are seeing yourself as a victim of it, because you'll stay in third dimension. So if you see yourself as struggling, suffering victim, that will keep you in third dimension, and your ego will make you chase and look for answers, which it'll never lead you to a solution, and it'll keep you trapped in the prison. So the first thing to do is say, I take full responsibility, and taking full responsibility that you created it will give you the power to change it. If you're seeing yourself as a victim, or if you're seeing yourself as struggling or suffering, you'll never have the power to change it, because it'll keep you in a third dimension perception. So to get at a victim, no matter what situation you're in, take full responsibility that you ask that person to come into your reality to play the game of polarities with you. So your spirit flies out to their spirit and says, listen, I would like to awaken, but I keep giving my power away to everybody. So I was wondering if you and I could start dating or having a relationship, and then you do something to take my power, and then see if I'll stand up for myself, if I'll set boundaries, if I'll give my power away, because nobody can take your power unless you give it. So this is the game that we are on planet Earth. It's the game of frequencies. Can you bring a narcissist into your life and stay in your power, or will you give your power away to them, and for how long? So it's never too late to get out of the relationship, but taking responsibility is going to give you the power to change it, because it keeps you in fifth dimension. Third dimension, you're a victim of it, and the ego will keep trying to find ways to solve it, and you'll never be able to find a solution. You're just going to stay in that third dimension game. So if you want to move to fifth dimension and change your reality, this is how you do it energetically, is take responsibility that I asked that narcissist to be in my life as a gift to me for my awakening. So what is the spiritual awakening reason why you created a reflection of how you're not loving yourself? Because that's all it is. The more that they gaslight you and attack you verbally or mentally, it is a reflection of how your own ego is doing that to yourself, and how you don't set boundaries with your own ego. So once you start setting boundaries and you start to love yourself, you don't need the validation from the narcissist, because that's why you start dating them in the first place, or having a relationship with them in the first place, is because you thought you needed love outside yourself. So in fifth dimension, we love the God within us, and then we don't need any validation outside of ourselves that we're worthy enough. So you stop giving your power away. So that's the first step, is what kind of prison did I create? And I take full responsibility that I created it. So the second step of how to be an empowered empath is find out what attachments do I have to that person. What do I need them for? And then start giving that to yourself. So I need them to love me because. I need them to be in a relationship with me because. Fill in the blanks. What do you need from them? Because whatever you need from them, you've got to start giving it to yourself. Because once you don't need it from them, then you have complete power over your situation, because you only are still in the situation because you needed something from them. You've attached to them. You've attached to needing them to love you. So start giving that love to yourself and let go of all the attachment. So the way you can work with that is to bring out your inner child every time you realize there's another reason why you want them in your life. So, for example, I want that spouse in my life because I feel lonely. So you've got to give that love to your inner child and tell her, you're not alone. We're going to move you up to 2025. You're more than enough because I'm here. And then the inner child won't feel lonely anymore because you see her, you love her. That's all she needs. She's been trying to get your attention, or he's been trying to get your attention forever. And once you realize your inner child's there, then the inner child will stop trying to find it outside of ourselves. But we've told ourselves as children when we were young that we needed something outside ourselves. That's what we were trained. That's what our parents told us. So all of this seeking love outside of ourselves has to get shattered. So what is it that you need from your spouse that made you date them in the first place? Or what is it that you needed from your mother if it's a narcissistic parent? Or what is it that you needed from your child? Did you need that child to love you? Figure out why you created them. What was the reason that they're in your life? Why did you want children? Why did you want a spouse? So figuring out those questions, just asking yourself those questions. What is it that I'm even seeking? And then start giving that love to yourself that you were seeking in them. So the third step on how to become an empowered empath is removing their identity. What identity have you given this person? They're my husband. What role does a husband play? Because you have all these expectations of what a husband is, or a wife is, or a parent is, or a child is, or a boss is, or a neighbor is. I've got these expectations of what I need this person to be and what role I need them to play in my reality. So you've given them an identity. You have to remove that identity so that you stop ego attaching to that identity and the role that they play. So what if they were a spirit just floating around and you remove the whole human body? Who are they without an identity? Who are you without an identity? You have to remove the identity, because if there's an identity, there's a role of expectations that you're seeking from them, and your ego is just always going to make you seek it. So you could see them as a floating ball of divine love, of their soul, of their spirit, and then their costume is their human body. But that's not who they are. Who they are is that divine essence. The game they're playing is their ego human body. And so you want to stop seeing the ego human body. You just want to see them as divine light so that you can let go of the judgment on it. You must let go of the judgment on it as well. Because if you're still judging them as doing something wrong or bad, that's going to keep you in third dimension. You have to see all their actions, now whether it's really harmful or really cruel, really mean. You have to see it in God's eyes. You have to see it in a fifth dimension perception in order to have the power to change it. If you're still judging it, it will still show up, because your judgment upon it gives them a reaction, and the narcissist is looking for a reaction. That is what their supply is. When you react with an emotion, it feeds them. They can munch on your energy because you shrink, and they take your power. You give it to them. They don't take it. It's you giving it to them because you reacted. So not having a reaction, removing their identity, and not judging them for all of their actions. So that one's a big one, because if you're judging it, it takes you back to third dimension so quickly. How can I not judge that? Saint Germain's saying, people are asking, well, how can I not judge it? Just stand in the now moment and say it's not good, bad, right, or wrong for everything they do. So if they try to trick you by moving things around the house, that's not good, bad, right, or wrong. If they say mean words to you, just say it in your head. You're not going to say it out loud. That's not good, bad, right, or wrong. I have no reaction to that. And if they keep tricking you and you don't know when you're being tricked, because a lot of narcissists lie, and a lot of times it's compulsive lying. Sometimes it's just to confuse your reality. Sometimes it's to puppet your emotions. So they want you to feel unstable, so you won't feel stable enough to leave. And they always need a win. They always believe they're in a competition, and they always see everyone as on a hierarchy. So they need to be on the hierarchy of more superior, and so they need to keep you inferior. This is how their ego's working. So they see you as an extension of themselves. And so if you're not reacting the way they want, then that's bad. So they see you as all good or as all bad. There's no in between. If you're pleasing them, you're all good. If you're not pleasing them, you're all bad. If they can puppet your emotions, you're all good. If you don't allow them to puppet your emotions and you have no reaction, that's all bad. So they see you not as an individual person with autonomy. They see you as an extension of themselves, because they have no sense of self. They don't have the sense of self that an empath does. So they use people to get that sense of self. They use people to get the supply. So sometimes they might take on some of your personality. If they admire you, if you're successful at something, they'll start doing the same thing or dressing the same or acting the same. And then they end up getting mad because they're putting on the same show that you're putting on, but everybody likes you more. And they look at you and say, well, how come everybody likes you more when I'm the superior one, when I'm the more important one, and I'm doing the same thing? How come everybody's drawn to you and you don't have to do anything to earn that? But I'm working hard to act nice. I'm working hard to show everyone how great I am. I'm a great actor, because they have to act nice. And an empath naturally is nice. So the narcissist doesn't understand why you have it so easy, and that's what makes them so angry. And they start to punish you for it. So they punish you to keep control and puppet your emotions, but they also punish you if they see you as more successful or people are liking you more. A lot of times narcissists will have jealousy. And it's a jealousy to the point that if you're watching TV together and you're paying attention to the TV instead of paying attention to them, then that's all bad. They're jealous of that. It's not just they're jealous that you're flirting with someone else, or they're jealous of your friends or family. It could be jealousy that whatever you're doing in the moment is about you. If you're doing a craft or one of your talents or gifts or reading a book, you're not paying attention to them, so they're going to start punishing you. So a lot of times they'll give you silent treatment and you can't figure out why. It's when you turn your focus on yourself. Maybe it's your birthday. Birthdays might be really rough for you because it's about you, and it has to be about them in order for their ego to maintain stability and to survive. So it's the game of the ego. Their egos needs to survive. So if you can't figure out when they're lying and when they're not, how you can override this and move into a fifth dimension and to never give your power away by being tricked by their lie, is that every time they say something in your head, all you have to do is say, I don't believe your lies. So if you ask them, how was your day? What did you do today? And you believe they were somewhere else when they tell their story of where they were, all you have to do in your head is say, I don't believe your lies. You don't have to say it out loud. Don't say it out loud. Say it in your head. So after every sentence, just start running that program. My spirit doesn't believe your lies. Because if your spirit doesn't believe their lies, their spirit knows you're saying that. And when they know that you're saying that, energetically, on a soul level or subconsciously, they can feel that you didn't shrink. If you believe their lies, you shrink because they get to trick you. If you're not sure what their lies are or when they're lying, you just keep repeating that. I don't believe your lies. And then you always stay big. So in your head, my spirit doesn't believe your lies. My spirit doesn't believe your ego lies. I don't believe your lies. Repeat it. Repeat it after everything they say, and then you'll see the shift. Because you'll be able to notice that your energy stays big. You're not getting confused. You stop getting that confusion, because Saint Germain's showing me that because they're always gaslighting and your spirit knows it, but you're believing them because you want to believe in it. You want to believe in the relationship. You want to believe that they love you. You want to believe that this is forever. You want to believe that they wouldn't do anything to harm you or try to trick you. So by saying I don't believe your lies, it overrides all of that and the confusion stops. Because a lot of times Saint Germain's showing me you walk away very confused. Because they can gaslight you into not even knowing who you are and feeling like you don't have a sense of self anymore. They can change your reality of not knowing anything, if anything's true, what is true. You get into a state of confusion, and then they have complete control over you. So the more they gaslight you, the more confused you get. But your spirit knows, so it's always trying to tell you. But the ego says, oh, I'm going to take that and make you feel disorientated, make you question everything, make you feel unsure. So this gives you the power with your own ego. You just say, I don't believe your lies, after every sentence. And after a while, it'll just get so normal that you're saying that, it just overrides it. And you can still have a conversation. Oh, how was your day? And then they tell you how your day was. You say, I don't believe your lies, and then keep talking. They're not knowing that you're saying that in your head, but it will keep your auric field extended. It'll keep your consciousness expanded, and it will keep you in your power. And that it works really, really well. You'll never feel confused again. It might take you a few days before you stop feeling confused, but once it's like a repeated pattern, then it will stop all confusion. And your ego might want to try to make you stop saying it. So you might forget for a few days and say, oh, I could have just been saying, I don't believe your lies, I forgot about it. That's because the ego wants you to forget about that, because that's going to empower you. So Saint Germain's bringing in step number 4 for your empowered empath playbook. And step number 4 is fears. Figure out what fears you have of this person, or what fears, if it's you've created a prison in your own mind or your own body, what fears are keeping you imprisoned. You must figure out what fears are keeping you imprisoned and let go of those fears in order to be set free. Because once you let go of the fear of the narcissist, you have your full power. Do you fear they're going to hate you? Do you fear they're going to hurt you? Do you fear they're not going to love you? Do you fear they're going to leave you? Do you fear they're going to cheat on you? Do you fear that they'll smear your name? Do you fear that they're going to get everybody against you? So all of these fears, no matter how severe the fear is, you're always safe because you're source energy. There's nothing they can do physically, mentally, emotionally. There's nothing that they can do because you're an infinite being. You're source energy. Your human costume is a costume. So what is it you're afraid of? Figure it out and then work with your inner child to make her feel safe. So use your resources in third dimension to get out if you fear you're going to be harmed. And then you can work on the fears on a soul level so that you don't recreate it again. You have to get to a place in fifth dimension where there's no judgment on it, but there's also no fear on it. What's the worst thing that can happen? What is that fear? What are you fearing? Figure out what it is, your deepest fear, and it's going to open up so many awarenesses for you. What's the worst thing that can happen if I got what I wanted? What's the worst thing that could happen if I was at peace? Because the worst thing that can happen to you is your key to freedom. Is it a fear that you'll never be loved? That you'll never be worthy to be loved? That nobody will ever love you? Is your fear that you'll feel safe? Is your fear that you'll feel free and you're not comfortable with freedom because you've had abuse since you were a child? You have to figure out what fears and then tell your inner child a different story, move them up to 2025. Tell your inner child, I'm putting you in a safe place and we're not going to fear that anymore. Because they'll sense that you don't fear them anymore. And then that gives you your power back. You can leave the situation before you do this step, like get to safety, and then work with it on a soul level. But work on removing those fears. Your source energy. And a lot of you have created this situation, Saint Germain saying, because you're such old souls. You're so expanded in your consciousness that you wanted to create a game that would be really deep darkness so that you'll know the greatest light. So when we come to planet Earth and we put on these human costumes, we are here to find our way back to what we already came from. So it's about the journey. And after so many lifetimes, it's like, okay, I've transmuted every frequency of darkness. I've got to go deeper and darker. So because then you'll know the polarity of that in love. So the deeper the darkness you go into on planet Earth, the more expanded in your frequency of love that you'll feel when you overcome that darkness. So it's the game of frequencies. It's the game of polarities. You must let go of the fears. Whatever is the worst that can happen, what if you didn't fear it? What is the worst thing that can happen if I got what I wanted? And what's the worst thing that can happen if this relationship continued the way it's going? Why do I fear this person? Figure that out. Work with your inner child on healing that, and move her to a safe place in your heart, and move her up to 2025. Tell her that you're an adult now, that you can keep her safe, because she doesn't have to be involved in your adult relationships. She can stay in your heart with Jesus. You have to make the inner child feel safe in order to set yourself free. Put her inside your physical heart. Create a place in nature. Don't bring in any humans. Just do this in a visualization, or write it down if you don't visualize. But tell your inner child she is not involved in any of your adult relationships. Set her free of the adult responsibility because it's too heavy. And that's where the fears are coming from. Because you're an infinite being, your source energy, it doesn't matter what happens to us on planet Earth. We're always safe. We're source. You're just going to go back to source energy and then probably come back and play the same game. But this time, the next time you come back, you'll say, this time I'm going to get it right. So you're here now because this time you're going to get it right. You're going to get it yourself out of this narcissistic relationship. And then you're not going to keep recreating it. He's showing me that many of you, it's a loop. You can see the loop, how you created it in childhood. You had narcissistic friends or family members or teachers, and then or business relationships, and then it just moved to adulthood. And then you get married or have children, and it just continues. So it's like this loop of this cycle that keeps repeating itself. So you want to get out of that loop. You can't get out of that loop if you see yourself in third dimension. If you see them as with an identity and human, you've got to put yourself in a fifth dimension perception and look at everything in the eyes of God with no judgment. It doesn't matter what they're doing. You asked them to play that game. You said, come and turn up the volume because I am still not awake. I'm still giving my power away. So yesterday when you gaslit me and I gave you my power, I didn't set a boundary. So today, could you turn up the volume and come in and do something even more hateful so that I'll stop giving my power away? And so your partner says, sure, I can do that. This is all on a soul level. So your partner says, sure, I'll come, and this time, I'll say something really mean, and you'll say, okay, this is another opportunity for me not to give my power away. So we're asking them to come and play the game. The empath is asking the narcissist to come to play the game so that they'll awaken. The narcissist wants to awaken too, but the narcissist can't awaken until the empath gets their power. That's the game. So the narcissist spirit wants you to get your power. The narcissist spirit wants you to set boundaries. Because if you set boundaries, they'll see a glimpse of the light. But if you're not setting boundaries, they won't see a glimpse of the light. If you're not loving yourself, they won't see a glimpse of the light. If you keep giving your power to them, you keep pleasing them and feeding their ego, they'll never see the light. So their spirit knows that if you stop feeding their ego, they'll be able to awaken too. It might take, 10 people before they see the light, 10 empaths getting their power with them. But they will start to see it and have an awareness if enough empaths stop giving their power to them. So you're not being mean by loving yourself. You're actually giving them a gift so they can awaken too. So, okay, so we're on number 5. So number 5 is setting boundaries, which I just talked about for a minute there. But setting boundaries, how do you set a boundary? Say no. Learn to say no. You're allowed to say no. You're allowed to love you instead of pleasing them. Everything that you do and every time you respond, whether it's verbally, through text, through email, did I just respond to that person to love me or to feed their ego? Did I just respond to that person to love my inner child or to please them? Are you loving yourself in the moment? Because the whole point of the spiritual awakening is, can you love the God within you? Can you realize that you don't need anything outside of yourself to love you? You don't need to seek validation anymore. So going in and loving the God within you is going to set you free. So you have to learn how to set boundaries. It's saying no, not being afraid to say no. Explore that. Why am I afraid to say no? What's the worst thing that can happen if I say no? What's the worst thing that can happen if I say yes? What's the worst thing that can happen if I don't set a boundary? What's the worst thing that can happen if I set a boundary? So you see, you're asking the questions in 2 different ways. What's the worst thing that can happen if I get what I want? And what's the worst thing that can happen if I don't get what I want? Because both of those questions in every area that we've talked about will give you awarenesses. You're asking these questions to the universe. When you're working with the universe in a spiritual awakening, you have to ask questions constantly, and then your spirit guides drop the answer in your head, and that's when you have your aha moment. That's you channeling source energy. Ask questions. Why did I create this? What's our soul purpose together? Setting boundaries, and then you can also get some educational info off the internet or through books on how to set boundaries. There's lots of information on the internet, but boundaries must be set in order for you to get your power. And it's not selfish of you to love yourself. So setting boundaries in order to protect your inner child and stop giving so much of yourself to people. So step number 6 is about communication. So in 3rd dimension, we always speak up and say what's bothering us. And sometimes we're afraid to in relationships. Sometimes we do and we get punished. So it's just not working anymore. Every time you speak, there's nothing getting resolved. So instead of speaking from the head, you're going to start speaking from the heart. So this step is about speaking from your heart on a soul level. So you can do this in meditation or visualization, and you visualize speaking to your partner or whoever's the narcissist in your relationship. Speak to them on a soul level. Have your spirit and their spirit talk. Bring in a mediator. You can fly into the center of your physical heart to do this, and bring in a mediator like an archangel or an ascended master, and that way you can both have a voice without your inner child feeling scared, because they'll see like Jesus is there, or Saint Germain's there, or Mother Mary, whoever you're comfortable with. Bring them in. You ask their spirit, because you don't want to interfere with their soul's journey, and ask their spirit permission to have a conversation with them on a soul level. And then you just visualize your spirit and their spirit talking. And you explain to them what you're upset about and ask to see their truth. So you want to ask to see their truth on a soul level, and then you'll see and have awarenesses of why they're attacking you or why they're trying to control you. You'll start to understand them on a deeper level, and it'll also give you an opportunity to have a voice when you couldn't speak up out loud. So Saint Germain is showing me that speaking from soul to soul is just as effective as having a voice in third dimension. So you're going into a fifth dimension reality and talking to them soul to soul, and that's going to transmute more frequencies than getting in an argument in third dimension. Because how's that working for you? Ask that question to yourself. How's this working for me? Every time they come home and I try to have a voice, they attack me. How's that working for me? It's not. That's the old way. That's the third dimension way. Egos talking never resolve anything. That's why there's so many arguments in the world. That's why there's so much conflict, because it's always two egos talking, because it's the only game we're in. So you got to move to a different game, move to a fifth dimension and say, I'm going to work with this person on a soul level, because their soul's not going to block me. Their spirit won't block me. Their ego's going to block me. But I'm going to override their ego by asking their soul permission to talk to them on a soul level. When you have a mediator, like an archangel, then your inner child won't be afraid to have a voice. You can visualize both your inner children talking to each other, asking for forgiveness. You can visualize going into past lifetimes with them if you feel that a lot of this is karmic debt from a past lifetime. You can resolve so much and shift so much energy. You can change your whole reality simply by working with them on a soul level instead of wasting your time in an ego fight. So it's all about going in. This is all visualization. If you don't visualize, write them a letter. If you're worried they're going to find it after, make sure that you tear up the letter after, or get rid of it. So this is something that you do on a soul level in any way to get a voice. So you just visualize them standing in front of you, you express how you feel, and then have them say back to you, I love you, I'm sorry I hurt you, please forgive me, I thank you. And then however you hurt them, you say the same thing. I love you, I'm sorry I hurt you, please forgive me, I thank you. And then, or I give gratitude to it. And then you'll feel things shift in your reality, because there's a lot happening under the surface. Even if they're not aware, like they're not aware consciously, their spirit's aware, and it does shift energy. So what you're going to notice as you get your power is that the universe is going to start to remove them out of your reality, or they're going to start to awaken. So their spirit has a choice whether they want to stay in the relationship and awaken, or whether they want to leave the relationship and set you free. So as you do these steps and you're getting your power, you're going to notice that you're not trying to control it anymore. You're not trying to control the narrative. Because that's another thing. How are you trying to control and keep the relationship intact? Ask yourself that. Like, what am I doing to try to keep this relationship intact? Because you got to hand it to the universe, because the universe knows what to do with the relationship. So the universe will either create a situation where that person will leave, they'll exit your reality as you get your power. You don't have to do anything. The universe automatically shifts it, because your vibration changes when you begin to love yourself. When you begin to love yourself, instead of needing them to love you, you're no longer a vibrational match. If they go deeper into the ego and become more narcissistic because your light's getting bigger, they're going to get agitated with that. They need supply. They're going to go seek it somewhere else. So they'll either leave, or the universe will remove them. They might have an accident. They might exit the planet. They might find a different relationship and leave you for someone else. They might get new friends, or start talking to other family members more. If it's a family relationship, if it's like spouse and parent, they might start paying attention to the other children and then leave you alone. Or or vice versa. So the universe is going to take care of the relationship. You don't have to do anything anymore because you're working with it on a soul level in fifth dimension. The universe shifts the energy and removes that person, and you get set free out of your prison. You graduate. Okay, so the next step, it is learning to love yourself. So we have an inner child video on YouTube, and we have an inner child course on my website. I will leave the links to both of those below, or there's lots of other resources on the internet if you would like to learn how to love yourself. And inner child work is going to bring you back to loving yourself, because the inner child is the aspect of your spirit that remains young, so you can experience joy, awe, wonder, innocence. But when you start to please everybody else's ego, your inner child says, well, what about me? Why is their spirit more important than me? And then the inner child stops bringing you joy, and the inner child starts hiding, because they're like, you've spent, you know, we were free to play up to the age 5, but then we went to school and we had to please the teachers, and then we had to clean our room, we had to please our parents, and then we got a job after school, we had to please the boss, and then we went to college and had to please the professor, and then we got married and had to please the husband, and then we had children and had to please the children. What about me? So when you've abandoned yourself, your inner child stops bringing you joy. So you've got to find the inner child and begin to love her and tell her we don't need anything outside ourselves. That was false information. Your parents told you you need to find love outside yourself. So telling your inner child the new story, you're more than enough. I love you. You're more than enough. And the inner child will say, really? We don't need anybody to love us? And you say, no, we don't need anybody to love us. We don't need a parent to love us? No, you're more than enough. We don't need a child to love us? No, you're more than enough. We don't need the neighbor to love us? No, you're more than enough. We don't need our boss to love us? No, you're more than enough. The inner child just doesn't know that they're enough, because we never told them they were. So you're rewriting your story and move them up to 2025 or whatever year you're in, and tell them that you no longer have to seek love outside yourself because they're enough. They'll just agree with that and be happy, and then they'll bring joy back into your life. They'll bring harmony back into your life. They'll bring excitement back into your life, because you're finally seeing them. You're finally seeing that they're just as important as everyone else. You're finally telling them that they're enough. You're not seeking validation outside yourself anymore. So learning to love yourself is key, and also finding your own interests, because he's showing me that a lot of people will get into relationships or want to please a narcissistic parent or a narcissistic boss by taking on that other person's interests. So if you're in a relationship and they are into sports and you're never into sports, you were always into art, but you want to please them, and then everything of them becomes your reality, and you forget who you are, and you stop creating. You stop expanding your consciousness, because your whole focus, your whole world becomes them. So if your whole world has become them, start exploring within yourself what your interests are. Where did you like to play as a child? Because that's going to show you where your talents and gifts are as an adult. Whatever you thought that you could never achieve is what you'd be best at. Everything that you thought that you wanted to do but knew you would fail, it means you're already good at it. It's just your ego telling you you'd fail. If you wanted to be a painter, an artist, and you saw people's paintings and said, I wish I could do that, but I know I never could, it means you're already a great artist. You're already great at it. It's your ego telling you you're not. Your interest in the art is because your soul and your spirit, it knows you're already great at it. So whatever you think that you wouldn't be great at, that's where you're going to find your talent and your gifts. That's what's going to connect you back to your spirit and your joy. So start exploring what your interests are. Like, did you like reading? Then you'd be great at writing. You know, what did you like to do as a child? Were you into sports? Then maybe join a sports team. Did you love cooking or baking? Or do you love eating? You'd be a great chef. So whatever your interests are, that's your inner child showing you, we'd be really good at that. You know, do you like watching movies? Then you'd be great on film. Start a YouTube channel. So whatever you think that you're not great at is where you're going to find your magic. So doing all of this, focusing in on yourself, is going to upset the narcissist. They're going to say, well, you're not pleasing me. You're taking on your own talents and gifts and creating something, and this is agitating me. So when you first start getting your power with the narcissist, it's not going to be comfortable. The relationship's going to be very uncomfortable because it's going to agitate their ego. And they're going to start acting bizarre when they see that they're losing power with you. They're going to start to do very strange things in your reality, very bizarre things, because their ego is going to start to short circuit. And so you just watch it without judgment. They'll lose their grip. Their ego's losing their grip. And so if they can't control you, if they can't get you to serve them, then they need supply. And their fear is that you're going to tell everybody about them and you're going to leave them. They're going to run out and start smearing your name. If you get upset and cry and it hurts your feelings, you shrink your energy and you give your power away. If somebody talks about you or somebody says something mean about you or smears your name, is that it doesn't affect you anymore, because you're telling your inner child, we don't need them to love us. So it doesn't matter who they go out and smear our name to. We don't need any of them to love us because you're more than enough. And then you have your full power in that. If they're smearing your name, celebrate, because it means you graduated to the point where they have to go seek other supply and smear your name. You've graduated. It means that no one can take your power. You're set free. So that's the steps to becoming an empowered empath. You've got this. So gratitude for joining us, and we will see you next time.